So Crystal here is a single lady waiting,
waiting
on the Lord that He will provide. So
we'll put her phone number down below. I'm just kidding.
But you will be screened first.
I already love my future husband. I don't know who you are, but if you're watching, hey, but get ready for this. Get ready for this, girl. Hi guys. So we're back today with another video, and it's not just me and Ilsa, but we also have our friend Crystal. She's from church, and she's appeared on one of our other videos. Today we wanted to bring a real topic to you guys, and it was about, it's going to be about Christian dating or courtship.
So before we even get into talking about the subject, we want you to be aware that this is intended for Christian dating, people who are godly minded, who want to please God. Very old school, old-fashioned things you're about to hear. So if this is not your cup of tea, don't drink it.
So first things first, God's timing. Like seriously, there's nothing more important than waiting on God, because even if God has a guy for you and you go at it too soon, or you try to start things on your own, it's not going to work out. I really think that is the most important thing, is God's guidance and God's timing.
Totally. I'm like living proof for this, because with my husband, he's been my only boyfriend, but I don't think it was the right time. So we said and did things to each other that maybe wouldn't have happened if we would have waited on God's time until we were mature enough. And God's like, what are you doing? Like, you're not listening to me. Like, if you would just be patient, you wouldn't have to go through all this hardship. But since we're stubborn and we try to manipulate everything, that's why I think we end up getting hurt.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with God's timing. You know, recently, it's during the beginning of the year where you could say, like the guy, and I would go to the gym. You could say he was there, you could say, all the time. And we started to get to know each other, and we got close to as friends, and we would talk to each other, like, very personal stuff, and I was just like, okay, maybe this is the one, because I was, you could say, my age, and just like, I probably do need to, like, I got my life together, I have this done, and all that. But as I was trying to get to know the person, you could tell they wanted something else. It wasn't a relationship. So I was just like, I know this is not God's timing. Because I know in the process when I love hard. So I feel like if I would have loved that person or gotten more feelings towards that person, it would have hurt me, because that person wasn't in the same field as I was. So I've learned, and God was just like, no, like, what are you doing? You're not focusing on me. So that's where I learned. I was just like, okay, I need to love God more and love myself more, instead to love this person.
Oh God, that one's good. Love yourself.
Because how are you gonna love somebody if you don't love yourself? So you have to learn how God loves you. Be like, okay, I want you to shine your love with someone else, and that's how you would grow with that person, especially God's time. So it's perfect in His timing.
Yes, girl.
Reach, girl.
Dang. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry if you hear Erica's son banging something, but what I admire from you is that you actually had the willpower to, like, stop that. Because a lot of times, girls, we just want to love. Like, we're just so in need of love.
I think we love the idea of love.
Just love the idea of being in love so much that you forget. Like, she was able to, like, observe her situation and get out of it. Like, flee from the devil, girl. That's not God.
Because it's hard. It's really hard. Even if you know you're starting to mess up. I've done this in the past where I'm like, why am I doing this? I know this is wrong. I know I'm not supposed to be doing this. I know there's going to be consequences after doing this. And I still keep doing it, because as humans, it's hard to be able to do that. And she has really strong willpower that she was able to stop it.
You could see that she's wise and that she's in a right place with her relationship with God. Because that's what it is. It's not that you're like, I know this is bad, why am I doing it? Because you're not where you're supposed to be spiritually.
You're not in tune with God.
The relationship with God needs to get stronger before you could move on to a romantic relationship.
I think like another important thing you could say is when you study that person. You say you see in your future husband, your future boyfriend, whoever it is. See how they are. See how the way they act with others, you know. They could probably be this person up front with Christian you see in church, but like, oh, they're a perfect holy guy, yeah, they're in the altar crying to God. But then once you hang out with them after church or outside of church, you can see that something little you can notice, like, okay, you know, they're just friends. They're just like trying to put an image of, you want that person to fall in love with God first before they fall in love with you. You know, you want them to have that unconditional love that God has put in their heart.
That they're actually a godly person, not just inside of church, but outside as well. Like, I know a lot of people are like, wow, you know, that person, like, they're so good. Not just men, but women. And it's like, and then you see them outside of church and it's like, who are you? Seriously, like, you're not the same person that I've seen at church before.
Girls, just be mindful and be wise and follow your intuition all the time, always. If something, even just a little, you have a little hunch, something is a little off, just follow your intuition, because yeah, the guy goes to church, his parents could be pastors or ministers. That doesn't mean that he's Christian. That doesn't mean that he has a relationship with God. You know, like the Bible talks about wolves in sheep's clothing. So you have to really be wise and follow your intuition and seek what God has in store for you. Just make sure that your intuition is on all the time. And just because a guy goes to church doesn't mean that he has a relationship with God. So really examine the person before even thinking about
talking to them.
Yeah, expressing, oh,
I like you.
Yeah.
You need to talk to your parents and see what they think about that person. It might seem embarrassing. It might seem like, oh, why am I going to have to do that? But your parents know, your parents have already been through that. They know way more than you think you know. And it's like, yeah, they were younger, you know, their generation they're old now, they're going to think old school, but you really need to seek your parents' guidance, because if they're telling you it's not right and you still go and you do it, it's not going to end well.
Say you have examined that person, you seek guidance from your pastors, from your parents, and say you're good to go. There's still danger and there's still guidelines that you should follow when you're dating, as Christians at least, because this world is so modernized that anything goes. It doesn't matter what times we're living and what the world is saying is okay. We have to remember what God's word never changes. That's basically just plain and simple. So, I still believe in chaperones. What do you guys? I don't know.
Yeah, especially, and I don't want to say especially if you're younger, because if you're older, I mean, it still happens.
If you're not married, you shouldn't be alone. At least never alone in a room, never alone in a house.
I wasn't smart in that way, like how she's saying, like, you know, things are always going to happen, whether you don't go into the situation thinking, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that today. You don't think like that, but like little by little things happen. We're human. We fail all the time. You just don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're not going to be able to get yourself out of after. And unfortunately, I got myself in a bad situation. Now I try not to see it that way. I've talked to her quite a few times. She's told me, no, you know, like, you shouldn't be ashamed. And I understand, like, I shouldn't be ashamed of what I've done, because I've grown because of that. And I think just as I've grown, I can teach other people, like, to not make the same mistakes that I've made, to kind of be an example of what not to do. I've always had it very close to my heart, and I think it's because of what I went through at such a young age that it's so important to have someone to talk to. Like, I've always made myself available to any young girls that if they have any questions that they have, you know, I wanna help them with that, because I never felt comfortable enough going to anybody and asking questions. And I think it's really important to have someone to talk to. And, you know, I feel like God does everything for a reason, and that's my testimony, you know, what I went through, and not just what I went through, but that I overcame that, and that I am where I am today because of what happened. And just like some of you might be dating and maybe you've done something in the past and you don't want to make the same mistake again, you can so do that. You know, don't think that, oh, you know, I did it once, I screwed myself up and that's it. Now like
I'm done.
Yeah, like you don't feel pure. Purity is not, it's how you handle yourself afterwards too. Like
what state you're on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you might have made a mistake and you're not a virgin,
Mm-hmm.
just to be perfectly
Yeah.
blunt. That doesn't mean that God cannot restore. There's absolutely nothing that God cannot restore in you.
If you make God the focus of your relationship, He'll help you through any temptation that you handle. But don't get yourself into something you can't get yourself out of.
Flesh is a very strong thing.
Yeah.
You know, like even doesn't matter if you've grown up in church, but you have hormones.
Yeah.
You know, and
We're
it's
human.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get feelings, your heart's just like pounding and stuff, and just like one touch of the hand could be like,
Yeah, it can
make
lead
the neck
to
everything.
everything. Yes, it's true.
Anything could trigger it. So it's very important to have a chaperone. It doesn't matter if it's just a friend or something, but the more it's just, you know, it stops you. So there's one thing I could say I've learned that God has taught me is not to really rush into relationships. Yeah, I know I'm getting older, but like we could go back, like it's all in God's timing.
Mm-hmm.
But and I've looked at it and I thought that God has set a high standard for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like God has loved me so much, so I want somebody to love me like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to feel secure.
Right.
You know, secure in that person that they're gonna have that job. They're gonna provide for you and your family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I've seen so many like couples at church, like these girls, you know, like I feel like you guys set a high standard of how a family should be. In God, you know, not in a bad way, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, it's a great example to see for, because you girls are young, you know, and I think it's a good example to
Well,
share,
thank you.
to share for like
We're getting
for us,
older.
like the other young girls that are in church, you know, it's just like your kids are good, they're in church, you know, and then your husband's there to support you. You guys have many ministries, and it's just something that in a relationship in a church should look like. You have to talk to God. You know, He says, ask
And you shall
and you
receive.
receive, you know.
Like nothing is given to you easy in this world. Like you can't just microwave up a boyfriend and he's gonna be there in 3 minutes. No, you gotta.
He's not gonna be that
He's
good.
gonna be on the slow cooker like hours. I think a lot of girls and guys, I don't think they have this mentality of, oh, marriage, it's a fairy tale, we're gonna love each other. It's hard. It's very, very hard. That could probably be on a separate whole nother video, because marriage is a whole nother thing. Of course you love the person, of course you're gonna try to always overcome those obstacles that you hit. But it's hard, you know, and that's why don't rush into it.
If something bothers you about the person you're dating, it's only, I promise you, it will only get at least
Worse.
10 times worse when you get married.
Yeah.
And I've known my husband, we used to play church together, okay?
Yeah.
Like, we used to pretend that he's the pastor, I was his wife, you know, they were
All
our
the time.
kids, all the time, okay? Growing up Pentecostal, that's what you play. And once we got married, I'm like, there's still stuff that you don't know, and we were best friends.
Why didn't you tell me this when we were dating?
If you want something you know, a godly relationship that you're gonna roll together, you have to step back and let God do everything, and just be like, just put it all in His hands, because He has something more.
So that's it for this video. Sorry it was so long, but we wanted to make sure we got deep into the conversation. We wanted to touch all the little bullet points that we had, and we hope we got to answer your questions. We hope it's a blessing to your life.
And if you guys have any more video suggestions or requests, leave them down below. And we love you guys. God bless you.
Bye.